thanks for joining us, Sean. Thanks for this opportunity. Thanks for talking to us. And for those of you that doesn't know this guy over here, he's the world record for the Everesting Challenge. And for those of you that don't know, the Everesting Challenge is when you go up a hill the same height as the Mount Everest, which has 8,848 meters, which is 19 over feet. And this man over here has the world record for that, which is an eye-watering 6 hours and 59 seconds. That's insane. That's not a long time. It's just amazing. So well done for the world record, Sean.
Thanks. Yeah, I think well, you might have to check your stats, but National Geographic just came out, I think it was last week, and Mount Everest is now like 1 meter taller or like 2 feet taller. So
oh wow, so that means that you're gonna have to go back and do the same Everesting again.
Yeah, I think there's like more snow on top of it or more ice or something, so it's officially like 2 feet taller now.
Ah, wow. Well, that's impressive anyway. So I guess now it gives you opportunity to go back and you put those 2 extra feet on top of your record, of your world record, should I say?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't, I think 2 feet in the grand scheme of 29,000 feet. I'll take a
Yeah.
prorated time of like half a second. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So well, I guess to the viewers, I'm over East Coast of the United States. Kind of grew up in the endurance sport background. High school, I was a runner, cross country, track and field. Went to college at Virginia Tech. I wasn't quite fast enough of a runner for there, so I kind of started out in the triathlon scene, and then they had a pretty good collegiate cycling program. So I kind of over the course of like a few years there, I kind of joined the cycling team, and it's kind of where the bug got planted. And then yeah, graduated in 4 years, and after college I kind of decided to live the biker bum life, and been doing that the past like 4 years or so. Been able to be pretty sustainable with that. Raced quite a few cool races, a lot of domestic races, most of the big domestic races, but a little over Europe, Central American races. So
Nice.
yeah, it's been an awesome experience, kind of the minor leagues of the professional cycling.
Oh, that's great. And you ride with the CS Velo, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep. Yeah, I've been,
how long have you been with these guys?
this is, well, 2020 was my first year with them. Ended up not really doing much racing this year, but previous to this, I was with Gateway Harley Davidson for 3 years, and they kind of do the whole domestic foreign racing. So
Oh, cool, man. And when did you first get under your radar about the Everesting? When did you look at it and you went, I might do this. I might give it a go.
well, to be honest, it was pretty last minute. Like the beginning of 2020 this year, I saw that some big names were putting up some times, like Alberto Contador, Phil Guyman, those guys. And I heard about it, and I was like, sure, that looks cool, but I didn't really seriously think about doing it. So then a couple of my teammates actually did it in the middle of the summer, and I saw they completed it, and they got some cool feedback from it from lots of people in the cycling community. So yeah, I kind of sparked the idea, and then yeah, I guess my inner competitive spirit was lacking this year with the lack of races. So yeah, I would say like 2 months ahead of time, I kind of did a few big weeks of training, and then yeah, I kind of committed to it and kind of kept it low key. The first time I didn't, I told a couple of friends, but I didn't really make a big deal about it, and just kind of treated it as like just a big training ride, really, because yeah, there's not really any fans out there cheering you on, so it's really just you out there. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
last minute.
Ah, okay. And did you go, wow, this is nuts? Or did you go, I think I can do this. I can get a quite good time. What did you think when you realized, I'm going to do this?
Um, yeah, I think I kind of like I worked out the numbers on what I had to do ahead of time. Because the guy had gotten the record down to like 7 hours and 5 minutes before
Yeah.
I'd done it. So kind of worked out that time and what power I needed to do. And yeah, I've honestly never done a 7 hour time trial. So I
Yeah.
really had no idea what I could do. So I kind of went out that first time, and just yeah, kind of had fun with it, kind of experimented, and I ended up getting my time was like 7 hours and 30 minutes ish.
The first
And
time.
then
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of I took that and yeah, I mean immediately after it, I was like, yeah, no way, I'm gonna bump off 30 minutes from this. But then yeah, I kind of
You
had
did.
a sleep, recovered for a few days, and then kind of got some peer pressure to go for it again. And yeah, I kind of really worked out my pacing strategy, and then yeah, so it ended up being feasible.
Nice. Nah, well played. Well played. It was just under 7 hours. It's just crazy. It's just like
Yeah.
I consider myself to be a reasonable climber, but you are just like not another level, but like a few levels above me because it's just yeah, it's just under 7 hours. That's just amazing. So well done on that anyway. So yeah, it was brilliant. And mentally, how do you prepare for that mentally?
Yeah, I think, I would say the main struggle during the actual Everesting attempt was the mental battle, just because, I was doing, if we're talking power numbers, I was doing like 310 watts, which is, towards the upper end of my tempo zone, which, um, mentally is not super demanding for all those cyclists out there. A tempo effort is, I mean,
Yeah,
it's hard, but like,
it
it's
is
not
hard.
like
Yeah.
you're super focused or anything. So,
Mhm.
yeah, those first few hours, it's kind of just, you're going through the motions. But yeah, really towards the end, it's just a pretty big drain. I kind of like to use the analogy, it started out mentally kind of like reading like a children's book or whatever. And then it progressed to
Yeah.
like, reading a dictionary. And then towards the end, it was like, reading a calculus textbook in like Arabic or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was really a pretty big mental strain towards the end just to keep going. But yeah, I really had a lot of cues in my pacing strategy and eating, and there's just a lot of stuff to think about each lap. When to
Yeah.
break, that kind of stuff. So it kind of kept mentally activated, but yeah, it was definitely a pretty big mental battle.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. And you mentioned you were for the whole day with around 310 watts. How did you come up with that number? Was it a trial and error for during your first attempt, or how did you come up with that number?
Um, well, yeah, I guess the first attempt I kind of worked out I could physiologically do like 310, 320 watts. I think that was like my estimate what I could do for 7 hours. And then, yeah, coming off that first attempt, the second attempt that I got the world record on was a new climb. It was a little steeper. So I went and pre-rode that course and went up it a couple of times at different power numbers, like it was like 305 watts, 310 watts, 320, and kind of saw what my times were each time. And and then I went back the day after and kind of back calculated what power I would need to get a certain time to,
Yeah.
I knew how many laps and the elevation, so I could kind of back calculate it.
Ah, I see. Oh, very interesting. And now I would like to break this interview a little bit and try something different because, I mean, if I go to Google and I type your name, I can find a lot of details, interviews, and a lot of stuff about you. But what I want you to think is that let's peel off the cyclist, the Sean cyclist, and let's talk about the Sean human being. I just I want to find out who that person is, who the person behind the cyclist. So I've got a few questions for you. So the first one, if you won $100 million today in the lottery, what would you do and what would you buy?
That's a good question. Honestly, I probably wouldn't do
Buy more
much different.
bikes?
Like, yeah, I mean, I guess I've been lucky enough that, previously with Gateway, Harley Davidson, and CS Val, I've super good support on those teams. So, yeah, I haven't really needed to buy bikes. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I'd do much different. I really enjoy riding bikes. Everyone asks what my hobbies are besides riding bikes, but yeah, riding bikes is my hobby. I enjoy
Ah,
training, the whole process of, competing. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe like filet mignon and lobster every night for dinner, but yeah,
maybe
yeah,
what I
lifestyle,
would,
not much different.
yeah, what I would do is I think I would go to a bike store and go like expensive bike store ever. I would go, yeah, I want that bike. I want one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I might
another.
be commuting to bike races in a Lamborghini too.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Imagine you show up, everyone knows that you arrived just because you got a
Yeah.
Lambo. Nice touch. I like that. So another question is the funniest thing that happened to you ever or this year?
Hmm. Uh, I don't know.
That's a difficult
I,
question, isn't it?
yeah, I nothing really comes to the top of my mind. The
Okay,
funniest thing that happened to me.
ever or this year or last or during the attempt?
Well, I guess I don't know if it's necessarily funny, but maybe noteworthy there. And I guess a forewarning to other Everesting attempters. But yeah, there were quite a few deer and squirrels that ran out in front of me when I was doing the descent. And yeah, I was descending at like 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
So yeah, there's quite a few terrifying moments there that, yeah, were a little terrifying.
Wow.
Let's see what else. Oh, I guess P breaks during the Everesting attempt.
Oh yeah.
Ladies,
How
I'm
how how
sorry,
do you
but
do that?
ladies, it's probably pretty difficult. You gotta have to stop. But yeah, guys, I would recommend maybe practicing that ahead of time because, I guess as a racer, I've experienced peeing off the bike and have a
Yeah.
little bit of practice with that. But yeah, definitely the first times that I was trying like a few years ago to pee off the bike, you're definitely getting wet if you know what I mean.
It's
So
difficult, isn't it? I gave
yeah,
it a
maybe
roughly.
practice that.
Sorry to interrupt, but go on. What did you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend practicing that so you don't get wet.
Yeah. No, I roughly tried to do that, but I said roughly because I gave it a go. I was like, How? This is pretty much impossible." And I was like, what, this is not for me. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Uh, and another question is, have you regifted something and why? What was it? Oh, you don't need to tell me what it is, but have you regifted something?
Hmm.
Is maybe this is a
Definitely.
yes, maybe this is a yes and no question, probably. Don't know. Up to you.
Well, I won't tell who it was. Hopefully, they're not watching today. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely have regifted bike uh, parts slash apparel. So yeah, definitely some used bibs have been given out.
Cool, cool. And what inspires you? Bicycles, racing,
um,
something
it's
else?
really not necessarily racing. It's more of just the process of training. I like the that grind, so to speak, and just kind of the in and out process, the day to day process of training. Constantly seeing improvements, that kind of stuff.
Ah, cool, cool. Do you have any nicknames?
Yeah, I do. Panther is what people call me.
Panther. Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, that's cool. What do you do on your free time?
Um. Well, as of this year, I've been kind of working full time, so Yeah, I guess not a lot of free time, kind of been bikes and work. So,
Yeah.
yeah, been keeping busy during the pandemic.
And what do you do besides the cycling? Said you have a work, a full-time job. What do you do?
I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer with a utility company here in North
Oh,
Carolina. So, just kind of doing electrical utility stuff.
cool. I am a civil engineer, so I work in the construction industry. So,
Okay.
cool. We are sort of the same engineering. We have the same sort of engineering background. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. How do you rate your memory?
Uh, well, I've always been a visual learner, so 10 out of 10
Okay.
for visual memory, but yeah,
Nice.
maybe like other memory, maybe not so much.
Cool, cool. What is the most useless talent that you have?
Riding a bike.
Nah, but come on, look, you're just the
I
world
start and
record
stop in the
holder.
same location every day.
But riding the bike is not useless. It's just amazing. What you did is just amazing. It can't be useless.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of life, it might be less important than other things. Like, it's important to cyclists, but yeah, I mean, I ride my bike in spandex every day and get in the way of other cars. So
Yeah, yeah, I know
other
what you
people
mean.
might think it's useless.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. What is on your bucket list? Maybe a few
Hmm.
things, two or three.
Um, yeah, I think, uh, kind of just hit those like the big, like the French Alps. I've always kind of, seen cycling races going there. And,
Mm,
I think I'd love to, maybe like a little Switzerland trip or something, just hit some big climbs, the iconic climbs for cycling. Maybe, that would definitely be on the bucket list. Yeah, I think I just enjoy traveling. So there's probably tons of places that I'd put on my bucket list.
nice, nice. What would you tell your teenage self if you could go back in time?
Mm, good question. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think maybe not getting into bikes. It's really it's a consuming, expensive sport if you're getting into it. So
I agree. I agree with you on that one.
yeah, I think yeah, maybe I would have started cycling sooner. I was I guess a late entry into the sport, which I think a lot of Americans are. We don't really have it in like middle or high school. So yeah, maybe I would tell my teenage self to maybe get on the bike and start building that passion.
Cool, cool. Now the final one out of these questions is top cyclist of all time, and maybe top three of this decade.
Hmm. Well, I think probably the big stage racer is probably the Chris Froome out there. I'm a pretty big fan of Alaphilippe and like Peter
Mm,
Sagan. The guys that just make the race super interesting. Chris
yeah.
Froome's, I guess, kind of a boring racer, if you would say, but yeah, I think Peter Sagan, Julian Alaphilippe. I think those are some top cyclists out there
The top guys and the greatest of all time.
of all time.
It's a
Um,
difficult question, isn't it? There's
That
so
is
many.
that is difficult. And there's just so many disciplines and types of races out there.
I agree.
I don't know. I think, maybe Peter Sagan because,
Oh,
he's done well in
interesting.
a few like stage races, kind of GC results and, obviously he's a pretty good sprinter and a one-day classics kind of rider and yeah, he's pretty good off the road too. So maybe, yeah, I think he could make a run at the best cyclist ever.
Cool. That's interesting. And he's the only person that won the world title three times in a row. He's the only person that has ever done that. So that shows that he has a lot of ability and the raw power as well. So yeah, yeah, that's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the Everest challenging, what your bike, did you change anything to it? Did you make any crazy adjustments, or what did you do?
Yeah, so if I were to go back again, I would definitely make some changes. But this time yeah, I didn't make any changes. I took off one of the bottle cages, but that was the extent of the changes I made. So whatever that saves, like,
Ah.
2 grams or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I realized that, getting a lightweight bike is a pretty big help. I just didn't have those resources to like chop off my handlebars or get a super lightweight set.
Mhm.
But the bike I rode was a
Mm.
Cannondale Super 6 Evo. So
Mhm.
it's, one of the nicer UCI road bikes out there. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's not like it was a bad bike to ride, but
it could be
I don't know
lighter.
how much it weighed exactly, like 17 or 18 pounds. So yeah, you could definitely knock off a few pounds if you got a super light wheel set or chopped
Yeah.
off the handlebars or something.
Ah, interesting. That's really cool. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your weight and what is your height?
6 foot even, 5'11" maybe. And yeah, I don't honestly I don't have a scale, so
Okay.
I infrequently weigh myself. But yeah, I'd say I was between like 140, 145.
Ah, I
That's
see.
typically what I'm around.
Okay, cool. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your FTP? I
Your
don't know
guess
if you
is
can
better than
answer.
mine. I
I,
haven't tested in
I
a
don't know if
long
you can
time.
answer that question. Sorry, go on.
Your guess is better than mine, but yeah, I would say like 360-ish.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so I think I'm definitely more of a diesel type rider. So those like the tempo power zone kind of starts going
Endurance.
into my threshold quite a bit. So I think um yeah, maybe the if you're kind of back calculating for if someone else is going to do an attempt,
Yeah.
my FTP might be a little higher if you're back calculating, but
Hmm. Okay. And what was your nutrition plan for the attempt? What did you eat differently? I mean, you already spoke about the toilet breaks. Well, I mean, the toilet breaks. But what did you eat? How did you? What was the nutrition?
Yeah, so this was another big factor that I did between my first attempt and my second attempt that I guess I learned. So yeah, that first time I really just used like nutrition that I would use for like a regular training ride. So I enjoy real food. So like, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, Pop Tarts, some like cookies, gummy bears, that kind of stuff, which during a normal training ride is fine. But yeah, during this Everest, it was just a little too hard of an effort to really down a peanut butter jelly sandwich going at 60 miles an hour while you're breathing
Yeah.
hard. So yeah, I guess so. During the world record attempt, I started out with real food, some Pop Tarts, cookies, that kind of stuff, just because I knew it was needed those calories in, and I didn't want to start with gels. So yeah, I kind of transitioned to gels towards the end of the day. Tried to mix in some real food whenever I could, but yeah, it ended up being primarily gels. And Scratch Labs makes this super high calorie drink mix, so it's like 90 or 100 grams of carbs per bottle. So
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, I drank like 6 or 7 of those, I think. So yeah, it was a lot more what you would consider rate.
Yeah. Okay. And did you have someone at the side of the road telling you the times every time you did a lap or a few laps, or did you prefer not to hear anything until the very end or until the very last laps?
Yeah, so I had my parents come out, and they were my swan years, I guess, if you could call it that.
Cool.
But yeah, not necessarily the time splits. I had my Hammerhead Karoo that I was using, so I was taking my times each time. But yeah, they were kind of manning the feed zone at the top, so I never had to carry any food or water with me. I just had them at the top. I would take a drink and a bite to eat at the top, and then on the descent, I'd do that, and then I could concentrate on climbing. So yeah, I had my laps each time that I was taking on my head unit, but yeah.
And how long was each lap? You said in terms of minutes or in terms of distance?
Um, yeah, so distance, I think it was like mm, 0.7 miles ish. You'd have to check me
Okay.
on that. It's somewhere around
Mhm.
there. The times up, I was going like pretty much 7 minutes of climbing and then a minute of descending each lap.
And there was an average of 14%. Am I correct?
I think it was 15.5% was the average.
Okay. Cool. Cool. And so you don't for this sort of attempt, you don't go, "Oh, I'm gonna try Everesting next week." I mean, you gotta do some training prior to that, but like weeks. So I'm gonna say even months or years before that. So how was the training? What sort of rides did you do before?
Well, so I did. It was probably a month out that I decided I was going to do the Everest, but I guess I was unintentionally training for it all summer long because with the lack of races, I was kind of just doing a lot of base miles, kind of 5 6 hour rides, and it was pretty hot this summer on the East Coast of the United States. So it was just hot and humid. So I was, I guess effectively kind of altitude training. I guess it kind of
Yeah.
simulates altitude. So yeah, I was doing that all summer, and then I kind of made this decision, and then I did a kind of like a week and a half, like a big week and a half of training, kind of just huge base miles, like 6 hour rides every day. So I guess that was my training camp, if you could say, for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, really, there's not a lot of. It's not like a bike race where so many things can happen. You kind of need to, have a big palette of power zones that you need to be sprinting, base miles, that kind of stuff. This, I knew I was just going to be doing a tempo all day long without any surges. So it's a pretty straightforward training where you just need to build that fitness and CTL. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Do you think you want to give it another go to shave a few minutes or even more than a few
Um,
minutes?
well, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, I mean, I enjoy that kind of effort, just the, big tempo efforts. So, yeah, maybe I'll let someone else take it first. I think Phil Guyman here is gonna be giving it a go soon. This is like
Yeah.
middle December now, so yeah, I'm not sure exactly when he's gonna go, but I think he can probably put up a pretty good time. I think he's similar weight to me, and I think he can pretty put out pretty good power numbers. So we'll see.
Yeah, but he's not your age, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But then I think it's also amazing the way you talk about these guys like Phil Gaiman, and at the beginning you say about Contador as well, like they are your friends. Like I mean, to me, that's really cool. I really like that. It's really shows who you are as a person, really. Yeah, that's really cool. And so how was the recovery for this attempt? How I mean, if I did this, I think I wouldn't be able to walk for days. I'm gonna say. How was the recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely, it took a while to, I guess, be fully recovered, but I kind of took a few weeks afterwards and just like tootled around, did some rides with friends and everything. There's a lot of media hype afterwards, so yeah, I guess not getting a lot of sleep after it, but yeah, I'd say a couple weeks after I was good to go. But yeah, I would like, everyone always thinks that after you do a super hard effort like that, you're tired and hungry, like, that the night after. But yeah, I was definitely not hungry that, after the effort, or, I definitely didn't sleep that well either, just because your body is so, the engine's still running hot. So yeah, it
Yeah.
took like probably 2 days for me to actually like be tired and hungry after that.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah, recovery, I guess. I mean, for you to proper recover, for you to even think about, well, I'm gonna give it another go. I guess for that it takes weeks, doesn't it, for you to be ready as if you were just before the attempt.
Yeah, it was kind of it's like a weird, it's different than like a bike race fatigue. So like, a bike race, your muscles will be sore and everything just because you're sprinting a lot. This, I was doing tempo all day. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily a big push on the muscles. So my muscles weren't, I mean, they were sore, but like I've been more sore, but it was just this like deep fatigue that there's just the energy levels are low just because um, I think it was like a 8,000 kj day. So
Wow.
yeah, it's just hard to have enough energy stores to function those few days after.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see. Yeah, that's really tough. At this point of the interview, I would like to make another break because I'm creating a knowledge board, and then I have 10 questions, and five of them are about bikes or general bikes or anything related to bicycle, and five questions are about the Pro Peloton. So now we're gonna test your knowledge, and then how many questions you get right, I'm gonna build a board in the next few weeks with other guys as well. So we're gonna have a board to see something similar to Top Gear. I don't know if you're seeing Top Gear.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. Something similar to that. So the first few, I've got 10 questions all together, and the first one is, what is the longest bike ever built?
The longest bike.
Ever built.
So we're talking like tandems and everything, right?
Oh, we're talking about yeah, anything, tendons or
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna guess 10 meters long.
I'm gonna give you another chance, and I will go a lot higher than that.
What?
Yeah,
50 meters.
that was close. That was really close. The biggest bike is 35.79 meters, which is just over 117 feet.
Wow.
That's long, isn't it? I saw a video
That's a
on
pretty long
YouTube.
bike.
I saw a video on YouTube. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Okay, so second question is, how many bicycles are built every year, roughly? I don't think anyone's gonna get that right, but
Hmm. Uh, 100,000.
100 million bicycles are produced
Wow.
every year. That's a lot, isn't it? That's a massive number.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of people out there. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a lot of people, yeah. What was the first name of the bicycle before it was called the bicycle? No idea?
No idea. I don't even want to guess.
The name is Velocipedes.
Hmm.
Velocipedes. Now for this one, you have a choice. You can choose either the UK, US, or the Netherlands. And for this is the percentage of all trips made by bikes. So you can choose USA, UK, or the Netherlands.
Well, I'll go with the US since that's where I am. I'm gonna say like 0.5%.
Wow, that's close. That is less than 1%.
Okay.
Less
Hey,
than
that's my
1%.
guess. My guess is less than 1%.
Exactly, that's it. So you got that one right. So the UK is 5% and the Netherlands is 30%.
Wow.
Yeah. The fastest speed recorded on a bicycle.
I remember watching a video about this. I think it's like in like the salt flats. Let's go with like 150 miles an hour.
I'm gonna give you, because you're so close, but I have to say you have to go higher. Not too much, but higher than that.
168.
174, which is really close. So I'm gonna give you that one as well.
All
That's
right.
pretty close. Yeah. Now there was the five questions about bikes. Now it's five questions about the World Tour, the Pro Peloton, and all of those guys. Who won the Tour de France in 2009?
Uh,
Wanna guess?
Alberto Contador.
Score.
Yeah,
That was it.
that was a
Alberto
lucky
Contador.
guess.
Name two teams Vincenzo Nibali has cycled for in the professional peloton, and you got an extra point if you can name three or four. I mean, if you have to name two, but you get extra point if you name two or three or four.
Astana.
Yes, that's one of them.
Was he on Tinkoff? The Saxo Tinkoff?
There was called something else, I think. Oh no, he was on Tinkoff, wasn't he? I think he was on Tinkoff. Yeah, I can't remember exactly if he was on Tinkoff, but he was with Peter Sagan.
I thought he was, yeah.
Yeah.
What about the Bahrain Merida team?
Was he Bahrain Merida? I don't think he was there. Oh, I think I'm getting confused with someone else.
I think, yeah, that was the team when like he was like holding onto the bottle and he went at like 100 miles an hour uphill or something.
But there was Astana, was it? We're talking about Vincenzo Nibali.
Yeah.
I don't think it was him. No.
What else?
Just think about the team that he is now. You said one previous, which is correct. Now we need another one. The team that he is right now.
Who? I don't even know who he's on now.
He rides for a US team.
Is he on Trek?
Yes, that's it. Trek Segafredo. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He's on Trek now. So you got another one right. Okay. Now the next one, I don't think this is a bit of a tricky question, but who was Oleg Tinkov? Look at the name.
Some big money guy. I think he
Oleg Tinkov.
Wasn't he like a banker or something?
That's correct. He was the sponsor of the Saxo Tinkoff team, Tinkoff Saxo team. Yeah, that was it. So that's correct. Who was the 2014 world champion?
2014.
Before Sagan.
Yeah, maybe like Rui Costa, maybe?
That's correct. Spot on. I was gonna say someone from Europe, but it was gonna be very vague anyway. Yeah, that's great. And do we have another? Yeah, this is the final question. So how old was Pogacar when he won the Tour de France this year, the day that he won on Sunday?
I think he was 21.
21, that's it. This is a bit of a tricky question because the very next day he was 22. So that's correct. So your points are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's pretty good. That's 7 points. So great stuff. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's all this out of 10 questions. So that's brilliant. So now just to finish the Everesting challenge, I've got a few more questions. I think we are okay on time. How are you doing for time?
Yeah, we're good.
Still got a few minutes. Okay. What is your post-ride meal?
Really, like I guess my go-to post-ride meal is probably a bowl of oatmeal. It's pretty easy to eat and make. It's pretty quick to make. Especially like in the winter months when it's cold, you want something to warm you up, and you can kind of make it whatever you want, put a bunch of toppings on it. So yeah, it's probably my go-to. I guess if I, had to choose a real meal afterwards, I'm a big fan of lasagna, so I'd probably, dig into some lasagna.
Cool. Do you have a goal? What's your goal for the next, let's say, 12 months, 3 years even?
Well, I think in the current time, not necessarily any like hard fast goals. I think just kind of maintaining my passion for cycling is kind of, I guess, my goal in the current coronavirus times, just because, you never really know what's around the corner. I think currently, hopefully the vaccine's coming soon. So I think, return to normal might be imminent, but yeah, kind of just keeping flexible, just really, kind of loving riding biking. So Yeah.
Nice. That's good. And what are your expectations for next year? I mean, with all this corona and you know everything that's going to affect all of us pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, not really any expectations. I definitely would not imagine any high key racing, at least at my level, any large races happening for at least the first half of the year. I think already some of the US races are kind of pushing back towards the fall period. So yeah, I think yeah, maybe there's some like smaller local racing that'll happen, but yeah, I'm not really too much about that life. Yeah, so I would say maybe the second half of the year I have higher hopes, but yeah, definitely
Yeah.
no definitely nothing's for sure at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, I mean, no one knows what's going to happen next year with this pandemic and the coronavirus. They might put everyone in lockdown back again, or they might come out of lockdown. No one knows what's going to
Hmm.
happen. And I totally agree. For the second half of the year, I think the hopes are really high. But for the first half, I'm not entirely sure, what's going to happen really. But yeah, and what would you be your advice for someone is interested in cycling, for someone is starting now riding a bike and thinking, well, I want to do what Sean did. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would say make sure you're enjoying it because all the time I see, young kids kind of getting into cycling and they want to get faster and they start doing, all these intervals and, pretty just high intensity stuff that I think is not necessarily sustainable in the sport. Just because it's such a hard sport. It's long hours, pretty mentally demanding to be a cyclist. So, yeah, it's make sure that you're enjoying the sport. Find things in the sport that make you happy, whether that's riding with people, which yeah, maybe not is happening as much now, but yeah, riding with people, or make sure you're going exploring new roads, that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely make sure you're enjoying it.
So now I want to just put another break on our interview just to do something a little bit different. Like we have everyone, well, every place has some debates about cycling, and I just want to ask you a few questions about cycling. It doesn't need to be a long answer, but I know there are, debates or controversies in cycling, and I just want to get your view on it, really. The first one is disc brakes or rim brakes?
Well, it's definitely a controversial question.
Hmm.
You know, 3 years ago, I definitely would have said rim brakes, but yeah, I guess the past 3 years I've been on disc brakes, and I did this record attempt on disc brakes. So um, yeah, they definitely feel a lot nicer. Yeah, I guess now I would probably say disc brakes.
Okay, cool. Shave or not to shave the legs?
Yeah, go ahead and shave them if you want, but I'm down for either.
Okay. E-bikes. What's your thought on what you think about e-bikes?
Yes, I'm a proponent of e-bikes. I think they get more people on bikes. You can uh, you know, ride with people that otherwise would not be able to keep up with you, or you can go farther distances, or if you use them in mountain biking, you can kind of explore new trails. So yeah, I definitely think e-bikes make more people on bikes, which is good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Exactly, because I mean, if it gets people on bikes and cycling, no matter how they do it or which bike they do, what's important here is for them to cycle and get some exercise out of it and enjoy cycling. If they have an engine or not, it doesn't really matter, really, to be honest. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Tubeless or clinchers?
Mm, Clinchers, just because they're a lot easier. I don't. Tubeless are just a pain.
I agree. I'm with you on that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indoors or outdoor training?
Outdoors, 100%. Indoors is dumb.
Yeah, but do you do any turbo training session or you not even touch a turbo trainer?
Well, to be honest, I have not owned a trainer for a long time. So, yeah, I think this winter might be a little different, but yeah, I typically train outside. If it's cold and rainy, I just don't ride.
Cool. Now, the final one is Shimano or Campag?
Uh, Shimano. I mean, I think the relevant question for me would probably be Shimano or SRAM in the U.S. But yeah, I've
Oh,
never
yeah,
used Campy, so yeah, probably Shimano.
Shimano. Yeah, I've got Shimano on my bike as well. And I mean, I never had Campy or SRAM, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Shimano is great. It works well. I have no complaints. So
Yeah,
yeah, for me, it's Shimano as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Okay,
think it's
man.
more of a aesthetic thing. I think at at this point, like they're all essentially the same thing. Electronic
Yeah,
group
no,
sets are you're just pushing a button. So
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because when I bought this bike, I went for the Shimano, not because of the name or because it was light, but because it was silver, and I wanted a
hmm
silver chain ring on my bike. That's what I wanted. So
yeah,
yeah, it's more by the looks, well, for the looks really, for the aesthetics.
yeah.
Oh, well, Sean, this is it. That's all the questions I have for you. I mean, thanks for joining us and thanks for answering all these questions. I mean, the idea of one of these meetings is just to get to know the person behind the cyclist. I mean, what you did is amazing. It is a great thing that you did. But then I wanted to get behind that person, behind the Everesting challenge. I mean, who's Sean? What did you do? I mean, that's why I had all of these questions. And I mean, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, I mean, if you need people to be contacting you, what should they do if they want to contact you or get in contact, or what should they do?
Uh, yeah, hit me up on the social medias, Strava, Instagram. I mean, Instagram's handle is Sean underscore the underscore Gardner. So Sean the Gardener.
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Strava, all the medias. Hit me up.
Cool, cool. Oh well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope this was a fun interview, something different. And yeah, that was the whole idea of it, just to show to people out there who was the person. So I think we really achieved it. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And I mean, have a great end of your week, really.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. So yeah, we'll see you soon. And maybe I'll see you somewhere resting somewhere. And if you go for the challenge again, good luck. And I hope you're gonna break it. And then if you train for the Everesting, I think you are gonna break your own record. I have to say your own world record, which is amazing. So yeah, I mean, yeah, do that, and I'm sure you're gonna break it.
Thanks.